Hello and welcome to Getter Farms. We're back with another episode of Farmville, North Carolina, and today we're going to be hopefully jumping into planting season in a little bit here. We've got to get our planter all set up and ready to go, so we're going to be hauling this thing out of the shed and making sure that we get it set up. You know, I was thinking about whether or not we were going to hook this up to the Alice Chalmers there and pull that, but I forgot this has got a 2-point hitch on it. And yeah, I could probably switch this out for a regular style hitch, but you know, that was going to end up being a little bit more work and some money. And so we're not going to deal with that. We do have, however, a lot of different pallets of materials in here. So we're going to just scooch these out of the shed and see what we can do to get this thing filled up. We are still in March. We're going to have to move the time forward here. Man, that GPS system on the outside of the building is a mite loud. I think that's helping us out a little bit with our precision farming and whatnot, but it's a little annoying if you're standing right there next to it. So let's see if we can put some product into the seeder here. We've got that pallet of liquid fertilizer out there, which, ooh, that's going to top off the planter altogether. Not too shabby. And then we've also got 2 pallets of corn seed out here. I'm hoping that these 2 pallets are going to get us through some of our smaller fields here. I really want to tackle the stuff away from the farm first, I think. And then we'll dive into, I think, the big fields up by the farm after the fact. I was not sure how far a couple pallets of seed was really going to go. I don't know how much seed we're going to need, to be honest. And so we're going to be taking things a little bit easy here as we get started. We're definitely in a lot of debt at the moment, so I don't want to be spending money we just can't afford to spend right now. And so that's why we're going to start with 2 pallets and see how far that gets us. And with that, I think we've got everything all set up here for spring. We're ready to go. We'd been doing all that spreading here in the previous episodes. We do have a lot of weeds that have popped up here and come into the field. I could run a disc through it, but I think, honestly, for this is the only field that's really bad because the other field's kind of counted as a cultivator pass. I think we're just going to plant over top of it and see how it does, to be honest. So with that, let's take a quick look at our animals, which are doing good. We got lots of food in here. We've got this batch here that I'm waiting until they reproduce one more time. And at that point, we should also be at a over the $1,000 mark there for selling them, I believe. So that's kind of what we're waiting on. We've got a few more months for that. So not a lot to be done with the animals. We used up a fair amount of that slurry, down to 50,000 liters. And quite honestly, if we jump over here into the slurry spreader, we need to get this thing washed up. But we might actually, this is going to sound horrible probably for all you real farmers. I think I'm going to fill up the slurry tank just to see how much excess slurry we actually ended up with. If it's one full tank or what, I don't actually recall how big these tanks are. So I'm going to just pull on to this zone here and see if we can top this tanker off or not. All right, so we are able to top off the tank. It's got a little over 7,300 gallons US in there. And now we're down to 30,000 liters. So we got plenty of slurry to hit our fields again in the fall here. Realistically, we probably could run over some of these fields with a second application, but I'm gonna just go with putting the fertilizer on here with the planter to top it off for the year. I think that feels a little bit more realistic for us. And with that, we're gonna go ahead and move time forward. I think the last thing I didn't check out was our garden here on the production chain side. It looks like we've still got some seeds, lots of solid fertilizer and water in there, so that's going good. And yeah, there's not a lot going on with the feed mill because there's no corn in there. So we just need to get into the month of April. There we go. We've got some insane loan costs there. But as you can see, the money is ticking back up from that. And that would probably be our garden selling things off. I don't want to go too far into April. 10 a.m. should be enough to get some decent lighting here. Last episode, I had the relight mod back on by accident. We've disabled that again. I do think the color looks a bit better here without the relight mod on, at least for what I prefer. It was just a little too bright. I think the sunsets and the sunrises looked a lot better, but I think that for the daytime gameplay, this is just a much better color palette for me. Now, I don't tend to like to run with a negative balance here on the account, so let's go ahead and open up the finance window. We're going to take another 5K out just so that we're staying in the positive. We've got $3,400 of cash that way. And today's goal is to knock out some of these smaller fields with getting our corn planted. We are in April now, and as you can see, that's the first month here in the FS22 season setup that we can plant corn, at least on this map. We're going to go all the way to the back corner of the map here and tackle those two fields first, just because then we don't have to work our way all the way back up to the farm if we do need to refill. One of the entrances is there. I think we'll go all the way to the one back behind our feed mill here. That way we can just continue to work our way closer towards the farm. With the planter here, we might actually be able to sneak across that ditch if we needed to, but that's not the first field. The first field is field 43 here, so let's get all set up. I'm liking the size of this planter a lot. I think it works out well for the smaller fields on this map. I am probably going to tackle this one myself today, so we'll get GPS flipped on here real quick, and I'm just taking a look here. We'll probably take a pass around the outside of the field, give ourselves some headlands to turn around on. I don't think we need to worry about it too much. We don't do a lot on these little fields. Now, as you can see, the liquid fertilizer there is being applied at a rate of somewhere between 35 and 55 I've seen so far, depending on how well we did with the slurry before us. So that's looking pretty good. We're not having to use a lot of it, honestly. And so that's what I like to see. It makes it really feel like the precision farming aspects are working out here. And we got most of the value out of that slurry that we were applying. And now we're just going to be getting the rest of it topped off with the planter here. It also gives me confidence that we are going to be able to get through all of the fields with the amount of liquid fertilizer that we have. This Kubota just does not have enough front weight to handle this planter, though. We keep having issues with turning with it. So I'm not going to try too hard here on this corner. I think we're going to just, well, maybe I'll try and back up one more time here. There's a good chunk of that corner that I missed, and that will actually bother me. There we go. Something like that. The trees are not a joke around some of these fields, so finding a good camera angle is always entertaining for me. If you've been watching this series for any length of time, you'll have recognized the struggle here right away. But I am liking that we've got that nice solid fertilizer color down there on the mini-map. The precision farming aspects are working out perfectly here. We've got all of our sensors and stuff on, and we do have a lot of fieldstone out in this particular field. I think we're going to have to look into getting a roller potentially and rolling this field before the crops get too big. I think you usually roll the field after you plant, if I recall. So we will be giving that a shot, I think, this season. I thought I had fieldstones turned off, to be honest, but it looks like that's not the case. And I'm just trying to think about the best spot to pull off the GPS here. I think we're going to just create an AB line right here, call it a day, do the overlapping rows now. I don't think we need to do a second headland pass. We probably should, but we're not going to. I'm not driving the straightest. We're going to see if we can straighten this out and let GPS take over here. And something like that looks pretty good. We'll come all the way up here to the top and spin back around into that same lane if we can. And this thing does take a minute to lower down into the ground as well. It's been a handful of episodes, quite a few weeks since we did planting, I feel like, so getting the swing of using this planter again. The first field is always a little bit interesting, I feel like, when you get back into planting. The one thing I do like about these fields that we picked up is they're relatively small compared to the fields on the main farm, so we can knock them out relatively quickly. I always enjoy making progress and feeling like you got a job accomplished when you jump into the tractor. So it's nice to see us be able to knock out a whole field in a few minutes, not too many minutes. And while our slurry spreading didn't do a perfect job, we've got a few patches here and there. Overall, it's looking really good. And you can see just a handful of spots on the mini map now where it's that darker green color, which means we got just a little bit too much nitrogen in a couple of areas, but it's honestly not that bad. I don't think it's going to have a huge negative effect on the crops. I think we might see just a little tiny bit of a penalty to yield for over applying nitrogen, but it's, I think, a lesser penalty than it would have been if we'd under applied by a good chunk, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll see how that all plays out. I think either way, it means we'll have more nitrogen left in the field after we harvest still. So it'll all work out in the end, I'm pretty sure. Going to switch in cab here and see if we can make this final turn. Get ourselves all lined up here. One of the things I actually like a lot is the sounds from the planter behind us as we're going here. You can hear as soon as we get it lowered into the ground and working. It's well done. Great sound effects here. But as you turn and look in different directions, the sounds change. So if anything, I'd say one of the things FS22 has done the best for me is really stepped up the quality of the audio. It's much more immersive here in FS22 than it's been in past games, so I'm really digging that. It's really cool. And we're going to pull this out here. I'm trying to look and see if there's a way for me to jump across this ditch without having to fold the planter up, but it doesn't look like it. So we're going to go ahead and get this thing all folded back up and figure out how to get into this field next to us, because that's the next field that we need to tackle. And like I already said, we definitely are going to need to get out here with a roller. If I hop out of the tractor and run over here and look at the field info, it does. It says needs rolling. So we've definitely got field stones turned on right now. Not a problem. That'll add some interesting mechanics. I think I've actually got a pretty cool roller mod that I downloaded not too long ago that we can showcase on that. Maybe that'll be next video here. We'll get into doing some rolling. And for this field, I should go all the way around to the other driveway, but I really think I can sneak in right here along the edge, and we're gonna just call that good enough. Not the best way to approach that, but it'll work, it'll work. See if I can get these outside 2 rows back up into the field a little bit here. There we go. And this field looks like it was hurting for nitrogen a bit more. We didn't apply nearly as much, apparently. I don't know if that's because this field had less on it when we purchased it, and so we applied kind of a flat rate with our slurry, or what happened here. But we're having to put quite a bit more on per acre here to cover our nitrogen deficit. So that's interesting. I'm not worried about it. It's just an observation. We've got 350 gallons of liquid fertilizer still in the tank, so we've got plenty to handle this field. I'll be curious to see if we've got enough to handle the rest of the fields as we keep going through things, but I think we still had some liquid nitrogen left back up at the farm, or the liquid fertilizer here, so we can definitely top off the tank when we get back up to the fields by the farm. and see how far that gets us. And for all of this part, this is such a odd area. I don't want to put the tractor down into the lake there. That would be a bad time. So I'm just trying to figure out the best way to get some of these shorter rows handled. Something like that ought to work. And we're going to take this all the way down along the woods here, give us some working room around the field. I have to say, realistically, some of this grass here alongside the tree line is probably wasted space. If I was actually farming this in real life, I might have moved my field line a little bit closer to the trees. We might have to think about that next year in the fall when we've got some tillage equipment out here. I don't have anything set up really that could rip out this grass and move the field line a little bit wider there right now. And here I'm gonna avoid going into that ditch too much with the lack of front weight on this Kubota right now. We're having a hard enough time steering. I don't want to put the tractor too far into a ditch or something that would lead to me not being able to get back out. I am going to try and nab this corner here though. Oh my goodness, we're going at such a crooked angle. That was not my intention at all. What I should have done is just, backed it up straight and then pulled forward into our new line, but that's all right. I am going to take the opportunity to swing over here and try and find our GPS line. I think somewhere like this, and if I align to this heading and lock it in, everything else will kind of come along this. I wanted to make sure I captured everything up here. I was probably, looks like I'm about 4 rows too far to the right. That's all right. I'd rather overlap a little bit too much right now and have everything planted than goof around with missing a row. And I am going to spin around and take one more headland off by the tree line up here so that we're able to turn a little bit easier as we wrap up these next few rows. I was looking at this like we had a lot of rows or rounds left to do here, but realistically it's probably 2 more rounds and we're going to be all done. The differences in running a 16-row planter here versus the slurry spreader, which is, a 6 or maybe it's an 8-row that we've got there by comparative size, is a night and day difference in how long it takes to do these jobs. I think I probably spent maybe a half an hour in each of these fields with the slurry spreader, where I'm going to spend 5 minutes in here with the planter getting the corn in the ground. So no complaints. This thing's working great. We are chewing through that seed pretty quick as well. I mean, not as quick as the fertilizer, but I think we will probably need to buy more seed to tackle the larger fields that we've got by the farm. I think we're going to run out before we get through both of those, but we'll see. The wildlife are out in force today. We got 3 deer in the field. Very bold animals this spring. The other thing that I'm noticing right now too is that our soil is of the type that is taking the most seeds per area, and so that's another reason why we're eating through the corn maybe a little bit faster than I anticipated, is just that the soil type here requires more seed per acre. I don't know how these fields actually compare to the soil quality up at the main farm. Well, once we finish up this last little piece, we'll fold this guy up and send him on his way and see if we can take a look at the precision farming map. There's this one little row of corn stalks there that's going to bug me if I don't drive over them there. So while this folds up, let's take a look at precision farming here. You can see we've got this loamy sand up here, which was really chewing through the seed, where down in our other fields, we don't have that much of it. So we'll actually, I think, use a little bit less seed as we get down into these other fields. So let's utilize our brand new auto drive network that we put together over the last episode and send this guy on over to field 56, which is our other small field. We're now have our 2 small fields done. We got 56, I think, is actually our smallest field, and then we'll just have the 2 big fields next to the farm left. And here we are, our wonderful 2-way path, allowing us to pull in from this side of the routes as well. We're gonna go ahead and take it back over from auto drive. Perfect. And I'm gonna get this guy up to the corner here, start unfolding our planter. And if we get everything fired up here, you can see already the variable seed rate in the upper left hand corner has dialed down a notch, so we're using less seed per area to plant this field, which is good. And from a fertilizer perspective, we're actually using a fair amount of fertilizer in this field. Surprisingly, I was expecting a little bit less, but I guess this is a better soil quality, and that allows us to put a higher level of nitrogen in here. I think we're going to get some really good yields off of these fields this time around. I know when we purchased these fields last year, they weren't very well fertilized, and so we got the extra corn we were looking for, but this year we should get a lot of extra yield, extra corn coming out of these fields, which will allow us to really double down on the hog farm, which I think is going to be a lot of fun. I don't think that these fields are going to keep up with our growth rate, though. I do think that we are reproducing hogs at a faster rate than these few extra fields are going to add on to our productivity. But what I'm really hoping is that by the time fall comes around, we'll have some more that we can take to market and sell. We'll be able to come up with some more capital to find a few additional fields to purchase. We may do what we did again last time, which is pick up some of the neighboring fields that are corn and ready to harvest, just to get us through the fall if we're running a little light on corn when the time comes. We'll see though. I definitely want to get that loan back under $100,000 or under $500,000 though before we pick up any additional land. So that's my kind of mental cutoff here. I don't like that we're running such a high loan right now. We're at almost 700,000 after all the shenanigans of the last few episodes, and so I really want to see us get that loan back under control, get it back under 500K before we start doing anything like buying more land. Now, this is such a small field, but I am going to continue to try and take off a second headland pass just so I don't have to deal with the trees at the end here as I'm trying to turn around all the time. And this bottom part was kind of squiggly anyway, so I'll maybe overlap a bit here just to straighten this off. And I think we're ready to start picking up and down rows if I can get lined up here. I'm not as worried about the other side where we've got a ditch to turn into a little bit. I just want to get the straight part going straight here, I think. So we're gonna pick this angle. This is the one that I usually pick up when we're doing things in this field. This whole field is kind of put into the map at an angle, and the multi-terrain on this map is not overly strong, so you've got to pick your lines that you want to drive on with GPS and kind of stick to that. There we go. And as expected, we've got plenty of seed and liquid fertilizer left after doing these 3 smaller fields. I still don't think it's going to be enough to get the larger fields at the farm done, but it's enough to get started. And I'm excited. We're already 3 out of 5 fields done. The bigger fields will go pretty fast because there's not as much turning around. Honestly, I think the big fields are going to take almost the same time as the smaller fields took, just because we'll cover a lot more ground if we're not having to do so much turning around. And so I think before we even go back up to the farmyard, we're just going to pull right into this first field. We'll take off the headlands up on this end and wrap ourselves around that side of the farm probably, and just get going on this first field. I think we will go ahead and just do all of these little short rows while we're here and not leave them for later to deal with. No sense in having the frustration get postponed. It's always easier when you're in the mindset, I find, to just knock out the worst parts of some of the fields. And I like doing it when I come across it rather than waiting till the end most of the time. Gives us an opportunity to putz with our GPS and get that GPS track set up for the straight lines as well. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift over here a little bit and line this up for where I think the edge of that grass is, more or less. Not quite, but we'll continue to offset on the next pass here. And I'm just going to back up and we'll take that whole straight line along the grass, I think, and get this going. That way we're all good to go. Now we're going to do something a little bit different. Since we're here and in headland mode already, I'm going to take the second headland pass off on this end so that when we're ready to start going on the up and down rows, we've already got 2 headland passes on each end, and we can just do that. And then I can, on the other end, do my double headland pass. I'll end up alongside the road over there, and we'll just work our way back towards the house here. I'm overlapping way too much here on the headlands. We've got 3 whole rows of wasted efficiency here, unfortunately. All right, here we go. We've got the GPS aligned now along the edge of the field. So future passes will be working in towards the farm here. That way we'll end up close to the farm. We'll have all of our straight lines going. It's going to work out beautifully. I love when I come up with a plan, even if it takes me a few minutes to get there sometimes. Now I am overlapping just a little bit on the way back here because we missed a row or so down on the other end there. So we'll pick that back up as we get down, and we'll have a nice squared off headland here, hopefully. There was a little bit back behind the bins there that I didn't grab. We'll have to pick that up at the end. I probably should have just backed up and grabbed that, but I was in the zone, and I just wanted to get back down here and start doing the up and down rows. I'm really curious to see how far this 11% or 11 bushels of corn that we've got in the tank is going to do. And what is that information trigger out in the middle of the field there? I just noticed that for the first time. Fascinating. I have to say I'm not sure which is going to run out first, the fertilizer or the corn. We are putting on a fair amount of that fertilizer. It's ticking down pretty quick, but we're not burning through the bushels of corn as fast as I expected. Although, as I say that, it looks like it's continuing to tick down there, but we'll see, we'll see. Well, another round, and we're down to 5% left here. I'm not sure if we're going to make it all the way back to this end of the field or not. We're going to give it a shot, though, and just see how far we can get. Now, I've figured out why we started to tick down so fast on the seed there. We do have a strip of different type of soil that runs through the center part of this field that we're going to be hitting in just a moment, and that requires a little bit more seed, so that variable seed rate is getting chewed up pretty good, starting right in this area. You can see it goes up to 11 there from 10, and I think as we fully get into it, we're at 12 now seeds per, that's a square meter, but essentially doing that math, we're using an extra 20% seed as we come through this little stretch here, which you can see the effects of that right quick on the bushels left in the tank. So we're down to 3% now, 3.2 bushels of seed left in the planter. Not my best turn getting into this last pass, but I really think we can get to the end row. So let's see here. We're going to count down on our bushels as we get into those last few feet, I'm sure. But I'm really, really hoping, just for the sake of ease, so that I don't have to pull in and finish 10 feet or so left of a pass, that we can get to the end, and then I'll run this back up to the yard and we'll get another pallet of seeds delivered. 1 bushel left. We've got this, no problem. Here we go. We're definitely running on the last few kernels there, but 0.6 bushels between the tanks, not too bad. Ideally, we're not even going to fold this up. I'm going to try and just turn this around, and we'll park it right here. We'll do this little short row we missed behind the bins here. Maybe that's what we'll do since we're down here, and we'll bring this pallet right down onto our little road here and fill the planter up on the end row here. I gotta work us over just a little bit. The steering on this Kubota continues to be a problem. You know, honestly, I think it may be time to start shopping around for an upgrade to this tractor at some point. We had that 81, was it an 8140 on the rental that we got a few episodes back? That was a nice looking mod. We might have to look at that. Maybe it was an 8110, I can't remember, but something around that might be a good upgrade to this thing. Let's see here. We do have a little bit of money now because we got out of our negative debt, and a pallet of seed is actually not that expensive. It's $9.50. We're gonna start with a single pallet, because I was able to do 3 of those fields plus a good chunk of this one with a pallet of seed. Let's just run this over here. Very unrealistic of me, I know, but I just can't be bothered with a loader at this stage in this particular series. Maybe I'll have to challenge myself in one of the upcoming series to do everything using in-game mechanics, but for today, that was quick and easy. And now we're at 30%. I was going to put some liquid fertilizer in here. We're going to wait. I think I've got plenty to finish off this field, and we will tackle the refill of the liquid fertilizer after we finish up with this field. I've got a little bit left in that tank in the shed, I think, so I'm not worried about having enough to get through all of the fields that we got left here, this field and our other one. I think we're going to be golden there. Now, I should have swung wider and turned a little bit differently, but I think we can salvage this. There we go. And we're off. Now, I do find it fascinating that this field doesn't have any field stones compared to the other one. Possibly that's because we didn't do much in the way of tillage here, I guess. We did have the slurry spreader running on this field as well, so maybe I do have field stones turned off, and the other field is just in a state from before I turned the setting off. Either way, it's going to be fun to grab a roller and play around with that a little bit next episode, I think. However, for today, I think this is a great spot to wrap up today's episode. We've knocked out nearly all of our planting here. We're going to keep going on this field, I think, and wrap this job up off camera. And then next episode, we're going to look at that rolling and see if we can figure out how we want to do that. And probably set this guy off on course play or something over on that other field while we do the rolling. Hopefully you've enjoyed the episode. If you have, drop a like. It helps me out a lot. That's all for today. Kedrick out. Ooh, and by contrast, over on this side of the field, we're only using 8 seeds per square meter, so 20% less seed. We're making even more progress, folks. And if anybody was curious, we are going to finish this with that 1 pallet and all the liquid fertilizer we had left. We're on our final pass here. No problemos, folks. Now, I don't typically like to run... Whoa, stop. Oh, I need some front weights or something. Oh my goodness, I forgot how bad this thing pulls. Stupid weight on the back of the tractor.